wonderful monarch though he was, probably didn't get any further north than Blythe services on the A1. And if you read the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle pertaining to that year, you'll find that Alfred was rather preoccupied in the southeast of England. The Danes, for some reason best known to themselves, had invaded Benfleet. He was busy kicking them out of there. But as I say, well, let the truth get in the way of a good story. It says 886 on the obelisk, so it must be right. Anyway, notwithstanding that, sometime in the Dark Ages, Britain did indeed appoint a wakeman. Now this wakeman was chosen by and from the 12 most important people in the city, a body of men known as the 12 keepers. And once they'd chosen a wakeman, the other 11 were duly appointed as his constables. So it was a pretty close shot. Well, anyway, one of the duties of this sorry lot was the upkeep of law and order. The wakeman used to signify that his duties had started at 9 o'clock each evening by sounding a horn on the four corners of what was then the market cross. Having done that, he was to remain on duty until 3 or 4 in the morning. Now, if any householder could prove that they'd been burgled or suffered any loss of any kind during the wakeman's hours of watch, it was up to the wakeman to reimburse them with any loss that they may have incurred. Now, obviously, this could have left the wakeman quite seriously out of pocket. So he used to run a sort of an insurance policy. He used to levy a tax on people's doors. Now, if your door opened directly onto the market square, you had to pay 4 a year. However, if your door was up some little alleyway or round the back, you only had to stump up tuppence. I mean, we're talking quite a bit of money here. So that's why there's so many little alleyways running off Ripon Market Square. We're not daft. Anyway, this continued more or less in the same vein, right up to the year 1604. Now you'll appreciate that between 886 and 1604, nothing much happened really. You know, a couple of major civil wars, Norman conquest, Black Death, Peasant Revolt. You know, nothing much to write home about at all. And during that period, Ripon became quite a prosperous place. This was greatly helped by the coming to England in the 12th century of these Cistercian monks from Clairvaux in France. Now these Cistercians were big sheep farmers and they founded 4 major abbeys relatively close to Ripon. Fountains about a mile up the road, Jervaux Abbey near Midland, and further east you've got Ireland Abbey and the oldest of the 4, Rievaulx. Now with the wool that these monasteries produced, Ripon thrived. And later it also became quite important in the cloth trade. In fact, after York and Halifax, Ripon was the biggest place in Yorkshire for cloth. Again, this was greatly helped by King Edward III banning the import of foreign cloth in the middle of the 14th century. So everything seemed to be going swimmingly. And then we get to the 16th century, and that's when the wheels started to come off a bit. We've got King Henry VIII on the throne. And after 20 odd years of marriage, he wakes up one morning and decides he's sick of his wife. He wants rid of her. Now he hadn't quite got to the head chopping off stage by then. He just wanted a divorce. But the snag was that Catherine of Aragon just happened to be the aunt of the Holy Roman Emperor, a chap called Charles V. Now Charles gets to hear what's happening in England and he goes running to the Pope. Now here we have rather a strange anomaly. But despite being a Spanish Habsburg, Charles V had a bit of a Yorkshire accent, and so curiously enough did Pope Clement VII. And the conversation went something like this. "Hey, Your Holiness, I still heard what's going on in England with that bloke Henry. He's trying to sack me anti-cat. Can you do something about it?" "Heck," says Pope Clement, "that's a rumour." "Now don't do out daft, Charlie. I'll see what I can do." Stiff letter to Henry follows, because of course there weren't emails in those days. "Dear Tudor, you can't have a divorce, so there, love Pope Clement." Now Henry's a bit taken aback by this, So he replies back by return. Well, if that's how you feel, Buster, I'll start my own religion then. How? So in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, that's the English Reformation. Well, the upshot of all this was that in 1535, Henry passed the Dissolution Act, effectively shutting all these monasteries down, rendering all their property and lands forfeit to the Crown. 3 years later, his demolition squads get this far north, started whipping all the lead off the abbey roofs, running off with the church plate, etc, etc. This of course hit Ripon quite hard. Obviously it knocked the wool trade on the head quite badly, but rather more importantly, it took away the restraining hand of the church from these Whigmen. And for the next 70 years or so, matters got a bit out of hand. The market square began to look a bit like a punishment theme park. They were tying people to the backs of carts and whipping them. There was one occasion in 1570 when 300 people were hanged in the space of a month. That's January 1570. That was after the rising of the North, so I suppose they had a bit of an excuse for that. And putting people in the stocks was also quite a popular pastime. Anyway, cut a long story short, 1603, Queen Elizabeth I dies, bringing an end to the Tudor dynasty. She's succeeded by James VI of Scotland, who, not so unsurprisingly, becomes James I of England. And the following year, King Jim pays Ripon the first of quite a few visits. And this time the monarch is armed with a proper written charter. King James calls together the great and the good of the city, in other words these 12 blokes that's been running it since the year dot, and says, right you lot, listen, I've got this nice shiny new charter for you, but you're not having it till A, the ink's dry, and B, you get yourselves sorted out. I'm sick of you Whigmen, you've become far too big for your own boots. Now what I want you to do is hold elections, get yourself a proper city council, and have this city council headed up by a mayor. You don't argue with James I. There's a chap called Guy Fawkes found out to his cost the following year. So elections were duly held, Ripon got its first city council and its first mayor. Now the first mayor of Ripon was a chap called Hugh Ripley, who used to live in that house in the southwest corner of the market square, the one with the 4 bay windows and that little attic window. Now Hugh, by a strange coincidence, had been the last Whigman. So he knew all about this tradition of horn blowing. He says, look, we've got this wonderful tradition in Ripon and I want to keep it going. But obviously, now I've been elected mayor, I can't be doing it because I'm far too busy with my civic duties. And another thing is the straps on the horn will get tangled up with my chain. So what I'm going to do is appoint a horn blower to do the job for me. But I'm going to add this little caveat because I know what a dodgy bunch of characters you horn blowing types are. I've been there, I've done it, I've worn the tricorn hat. You'd far rather spend time in the tavern, quaffing ale, carousing and carrying on, than going out on market squares blowing horns. He does have a point there, but we won't go into that too deeply. I mean, if you see a horn blower coming out of the unicorn, don't be surprised. However, if you see a unicorn coming out of the horn blower, that is a totally different matter altogether, and I'll have a pint of whatever you've been on. So, Mr. Hornblower, says Hugh Ripley to his newly appointed lackey, what you must do, once you've set the watch on the market square, is you must find the abode of the mayor for the evening. In other words, where the mayor's hanging out. Once you've established that, you must sound your horn 3 more times, raise your hat, bow your head, and say the words, Mr. Mayor, the watch is set. So, every night, since that time in 1604, once the hornblower has set the watch, he's got to go and play hide and seek with the mayor. Now, it's a horrible night tonight. The mayor lives miles away and I ain't got a car. So I'm going to use my get out clothes. I'm going to sound my horn 3 times on the town hall steps and perform that bit of the ceremony there. I can do this because if you notice above the town hall front door, there is a lamp. And on the lampshade is written, among other things, the Right Worshipful Mayor of Ripon. You see, our mayor also has a lamp outside his or her front door. And I'd best do this because there is a tradition, a legend in fact, but if the horn isn't blown to Hugh Ripley's satisfaction, his ghostly face will appear at that attic window and all manner of misfortune and misery will descend on the